Alright, today we're going to learn how to wire a single pole switch power at the switch box. Now, in order to do this, we need to learn a little bit about the wire and the other stuff that we're going to use to do it. Alright, so terms we're going to talk about. What is Romex? 4-inch round box. What is a traveler? A single gang box, a single pole switch, what the hot wire is, what the neutral wire is, and what the ground wire is. Alright, so let's look at the first one. The first one is Romex. Romex just indicates the type of wire. The wire has a plastic coating and paper wrapped around the wires. This is a 14-2, 14-3, 12-2, 12-3, and this is a 10-3. It's determined by how many wires have coatings. So this is a 3-wire because it has 3 wires that have coatings. The ground wire is not counted. All right? The second is a 4-inch round box. This is a 4-inch round box. This is what your lights will be hung on when you go to put the finished light on in the future. Next one is a traveler wire. The red wire, the third wire in a 3-wire, is normally called a traveler. Because what it does, it travels from one light switch to another light switch. A single gang box. A single gang box is a box that will hold one switch or one plug. A single pole switch is a switch that will turn on or off a light from one place. It is identified because it has on and off on the switch. A single pole switch has on and off. Now, hot wires. The black wire is used as the hot wire. The white wire is the neutral wire, and the bare copper wire is the ground wire. Now, when we talk about the different types of wires, we've mentioned 14-3, 14-2, 12-3, 12-2, 10-3, 10-2. What does that mean? Well, the 14-3 is the smallest of the wires. It's able to carry 15 amps. The 12-3, which would be of these 3, is the middle, and it's able to carry 20 amps. And the largest of these 3 is a 10-3 or a 10-2, and it's capable of carrying 30 amps. What do these amps mean? That's the size of the breaker in your panel box that these need to be breakered at. All right? So, smallest is the 14s, largest is the 10s. Now there's other sizes. There's 8, 6, 4s, 2s, and all they do is each one of those wires gets bigger as the numbers go down. Alright? Alright, before we go out and wire the box, we got to talk about a little bit about our tools. Alright, so here's the tools that would come in handy if you were doing some electrical work. Alright, let's start down at this end. These pliers, these are called linesman's pliers. These are the ones that you will use the most often. The next one are your strippers. The strippers have all these different notches, and they're able to strip the rubber coating off of the copper wire to leave some of it exposed, and I'll demonstrate how to do this when I do the box. The next one is side cutters. We have a pair of needle nose pliers. We have a set of channel lock pliers. Then we have 4 different screwdrivers. We have a number 1 Phillips. We have a number 2 Phillips. We have a 1/4 inch by 4 flathead and a 3/16 by 6 flathead. The 6 is the length of the shaft. The 4 is the length of the shaft. The number 1s and number 2s, you can tell that the number 1 comes to a point, the number 2 has a slight flat spot. That's how you tell the difference between a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips screwdrivers. Then of course you're going to need a hammer, some type of a knife to strip wire, a tape measure, and of course a pouch to carry everything in it. Alright, now we're going to do a demonstration on how to wire a single pole switch power at the light box. So first thing we need to know is how to nail up our boxes. If you look at a box, you'll see that it has these little tabs on it that stick out from the box. Those are used as a gauge. So when you put the box against the stud and slide it back, it'll stop at those gauges. That allows, when I put my sheetrock on, the sheetrock will be flush with the face of this box. Okay? With the light box, you have this 1/2 inch gauge right here, so that it slides up to the stud to this point right here. Okay? Now, how high do you put your boxes? All right. If you take your finishing hammer, it has a total length of somewhere around 13 or 14 inches. All you have to do for boxes that are near the floor is take your hammer, set it on the floor, slide the box down until it's on top of the hammer, and nail the box on. Now, for light boxes, you want the bottom of the box, or for light switch boxes, you want that box around 42 to 45 inches off the floor. This will put them all at the same height. So when you do kitchen outlets that are above the countertops, they'll be at the same height as the light switches. Light boxes that are mounted on the wall will be determined by the plans. Where do they want the light located? So for my light box, I am just going to randomly nail it to the studs. Okay. Once we have our boxes nailed up, now we're going to take our wire. In this case, I'm using a 12-2, which is what is used for most of your plugs and switches in your house. Make sure you check codes to make sure that that's what they want to use. Now, I'm going to run this 12-2 from my panel box into my switch box. That's what it means by single pole switch, power at the switch box. My power is going to come into this switch box. So, I'm going to run it through this hole that's been pre-drilled. I'm going to stick it into one of the knockouts. And I'm going to leave about a foot of wire sticking outside the box. And I'm just going to fold it so it doesn't come back out. Then I'm going to take my other side, and since it's my panel box, I'm going to measure from the panel box, and then I usually want to go about a foot past the panel box, maybe a little more. And then I'm going to cut it off. Feed the wire into the panel box through a Romex connector, which we'll discuss on a later video. Then I need to get power to this light. So now I'm going to run my wire from the light. I have to knock out one of the knockouts and feed the wire into the box. Again, I'm going to bring out about a foot of wire outside the box. I'm going to fold it so it doesn't come back out. Then I'm going to run it down to my switch box, bend it so I have about a foot of wire coming out of the box when I get done. I'm going to cut it off and feed it through a different hole in the box. Now, the reason I do this is because whenever I run a box, a single gang box, I always put the power closest to the stud and my switch leg in the other hole. That way, if I come back here later, I can just look and say, I know that this is my hot wire and this one's going to be my switch leg. Okay? A switch leg is a wire that runs from a switch box to some type of a light. Okay? All right. Now, once I've got my wires in, I need to staple the wires. Now, code says that I need to have a staple within 6 inches of the box. And if I was running a full chase, I would have to put one in the middle because you have to put one in every 4 feet. So then I would just take the wires, top and bottom, make sure you do not tighten these down too tight so that they cut into the wire. Do not put the staple, the pointy part of the staple, through the wire. Okay? Once you have your wires in, now you're ready to cut in the box. So this is where your knife comes. I'm going to use a utility knife. I'm going to come into the box. So I'm going to use my utility knife and I'm going to come into the box. And then I'm going to cut the outer casing. Do not cut deep. You do not want to cut into the other wire, the wires that are inside here. So you cut the outer casing. Then you just cut, you strip it so you can get your knife in there. And then all you have to do is pull it off. Same thing with the paper. Just cut the paper off. Pull as much of the paper out as possible. That wire is stripped. Same thing with the other wire. I'm going to reach in to the box. I'm going to cut down. I'm going to strip the wire. Pull the plastic off. Cut the wire. Okay. Go. Now, once I've got the rubber casing cut off my wires, you'll see that I have 2 black wires, 2 white wires, and 2 ground wires. This one is my hot wire coming in from the panel box. This one is my switch leg going up to the light. These 2 neutral wires. Thing you need to remember with switch boxes. There's no neutral wires needed in the switch box. So, first thing you want to do is take your ground wires. You're going to wrap them a couple of times. Take your linesman's pliers, grab them and twist them so that they're tight. Then you're going to cut one of the two wires off. You're going to take a green wire nut. Green is for ground. You're going to slide the wire nut onto the copper wires and spin it until it's tight. Then you're going to fold it out of the way. Then you're going to take your two neutral wires. Now, code says that I need to have about 6 inches of wire outside the box. So I'm going to come out here about 6 or 7 inches. I'm going to cut the two wires off. I'm going to strip them so that there is 3/4 of an inch of copper wire exposed. How do I know which one to use? Right there it says 12. It's the second hole in. So I just grab it in the 12, I pinch, and I pull. And it pulls that outer casing off. Once I have my two wires stripped, I'm going to take a wire nut, in this case a red wire nut, and I'm going to put it on the two neutral wires until it's tight. You do not want to have any loose connections in there, so make sure it's good and tight. Once I have it tight, then I'm going to fold the wire into the box. So I'm going to push all the way to the back, then I'm going to fold and push the wire nut all the way to the back. Then I'm going to take the ground wire, and it needs to be about 6 inches sticking out outside of the box. So I'm going to fold the wire nut in. Then I'm going to cut it to about 6 inches and fold the wire into the box. That leaves me these two wires, the hot and the switch leg. To cut in these wires, all I have to do is cut them about 6 inches from the box, fold them into the box, and that is a cut-in box. All right, so once we've got it all cut in, this is the way it's going to stay for a while, because they're going to come back now and they're going to hang sheetrock on this, they're going to texture, they're going to paint, and get everything all ready. The last thing you need to do then is you need to come back and plug and switch. So to hook up my single pole switch, I need 3 wires. I need the ground wire, and then I need the 2 black wires. Now you'll notice that these screws are gold. If it's a gold screw on a plug or switch, it's going to get the black wire. A silver screw gets the neutral wires. And since there's no neutral on a switch, all we need are the 2 blacks and the ground. All right, so now I'm going to hook up my single pole switch. So the first thing I'm going to do is hook up the ground wire. I'm going to take my strippers and I'm going to take one of these 2 holes. I'm going to stick the wire through the hole till it's just coming out the other side. Then I'm going to bend a loop into that copper wire. Then I'm going to hook it onto my switch. Make sure that the loop always runs in the direction in which you're going to tighten the screw. All right, once I have that done, I'm going to take my strippers and I'm going to strip about 3/4 of an inch of wire from the black wires. Then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a loop on them. I'm going to put it just through and make a nice tight loop. Just through, just barely through, tight loop. Now, on a single pole switch, it doesn't matter which one of these goes where. So just pick one, put it on, make sure the curves go in the direction of the screw. Put the second wire on, tighten the screw down. Now, the last thing you have to do is get all of these wires and the plug or switch back in the box. So I'm going to try to fold them back in, and I'm going to put the two screws in and tighten them down. Long screwdriver. Put it in there. The drill works handy for this. Offset screwdrivers work handy for this. So I'm only going to put them in a little ways. But you would screw them all the way in. Then you would take a cover and put it over the switch, and it would be done.